Okay. It was silent. I'm playing around with our new StreamYard settings. Anyways, what is up, App Nation? It is TP Young, founder of appmasters.com, and welcome to our weekly YouTube live streams. I'm back in the studio and I had a great time at App Promotion Summit in New York. Thank you for putting up with my earlier time zone, but I would love to know from you guys if you preferred that 6 a.m. I'm not going to wake up that early to do the live streams, or if you prefer this 9 a.m. Pacific time as well. Well, today we got a phenomenal episode. This was somebody that somebody in our audience was like, you got to have this guy on to talk all about ad monetization. So without further ado, let's bring in Felix, and I'll do a proper intro for him as well. Felix, welcome to the show. That was abrupt, right?
What a fantastic video intro. Thank you so much.
Well, look, let me give you the proper intro. Felix is an ad monetization expert. He's helped app studios generate over $450 million. He has experience across 2 DSPs. So that's like, what does that DSP stand for, Felix?
Demand side platform.
Okay. All right. He's led leadership roles at Tetris, at Eastside Games, and now he consults with studios to skyrocket their ad revenue. And he's got a popular podcast as well called 2.5 Gamers, and you can find it on YouTube along with his Substack. All that is linked up into your favorite podcast app, Felix, and YouTube description. All right, let's get rocking and rolling, my friend. So, bro, you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, what's changed so far? And thank you for putting this together, but what's been the biggest change you've seen?
So not that much actually has changed, right? So I worked in 2 DSPs and 1 ad network, right? And that essentially means that those are the 2 major sources that are actually buying impressions when you start working with advertising, right? And what I can say, since I worked on the other side, like not much has changed in the industry. It's still a quite dirty industry, right? Where basically telling the truth doesn't always reward you. And it's a very murky industry where, kind of sometimes I say lying actually gets you further than telling the truth, which is kind of funny. But the kind of big change that has changed recently is that more and more apps that I've seen have quite a lot of DAU, and they've actually started to get into this revenue stream, which used to be mainly for gaming apps, right? So when I started 4 years ago, mainly it was like 100% app gaming clients. And now I would say it's about 30 or 40% app clients that are getting into actually monetizing with ads. And there's a couple of things that have happened on the technology side that have kind of actually enabled this, because apps are so unique with how they monetize with subscriptions. But there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about later in the presentation that is quite clever things you can do to actually get this revenue stream as well. And it's probably only in the last year this has been possible.
We have a client that does ads right now too, and he's cleverly used some ads in his, and it's a subscription app. It's not a game, Felix. So, and one of my friends, Moyo, who I got to catch up with in New York, he's an indie developer, bootstrapped his app, all subscription based, like an adult coloring game. And the question was like, how much money you're making off of ads versus subscription? And I loved his answer, Felix. He said, look, the money I make off of my ads, I use to run ads to get more downloads. And so it subsidizes his advertising, the ads that he has in his own apps.
Yeah, very valid reason, right? But I think I'm going to focus on another aspect that pretty much only the most clever gaming studios have kind of cracked. And kind of the summary is ads are beautiful. That's kind of theme of my presentation. But I'm not talking about the content of the ads itself, right? Because everyone knows that mobile ads is probably at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of media quality. But essentially how you can use ads to actually get some data on your audience and segment it. And it's extremely clever if you start doing this. So that's how ads can be beautiful, because you can actually get a lot of data really quickly on the type of users you have in your app or in your game.
I love it. We got a global audience, and we got Himanshu is here, Grimmy is here, Nurex is here too. What's up, Pablo, Miguel, Mohammed from Egypt, my friend.
Nice.
And Joe was the guy who said, you got to have Felix on. This will be a great episode. So Felix has been teasing this. Let's get into this crazy presentation. You can control it as well, Felix. on
I will.
your computer. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, bit of a like introduction here. You already gave me a fantastic one, but I'm just going to set the record straight here. So I stand on the shoulder of giants, right? Like I'm a money manager pretty much, because basically I manage the ad revenue of my clients, but I have managed nearly $500 million worth in ad revenue in the last 3 years. I've worked with a lot of large clients, helping them scale their ad revenue. Typically, I work with clients that want to get into ad revenue or that already have a significant amount of ad revenue to kind of increase it. And like I said today, for 10 minutes now, I just want to talk about how ads can be beautiful and actually help you with segmentation. And also, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction on how ad monetization kind of works, right? So just want to start off with some basic metrics. Then we're really going to dive into eCPM. That's the only educational part of this presentation. But the most important thing when you're working with ads is kind of the eCPM, right? That is essentially how much you get paid per 1,000 impressions of whatever ad unit you're kind of working with, right? It's not always the most important metric, but essentially the second most important metric is fill rate. So how much can you actually get the DSPs that I used to work for or the ad networks I used to work for to actually purchase your inventory? These things together, so fill, eCPM together, means ad revenue, and that's how much you earn. Which brings us to the golden metric in ad monetization, which is ad ARPDAU. So this is ad revenue per daily active user. So this is the most important metric because it's the only metric that gives you a clear indication of how your ad is doing or how your ads are doing despite of what fluctuations you're having in UA. So one more slide on background, then you guys will be perfectly like educated to basically follow me in this segmentation talk, right? So this eCPM figure, right, which is how much networks and DSPs are willing to pay for your inventory, right? How is that calculated? So basically, I used to work for DSPs and networks. It's all about data, right? So these networks and DSPs have a lot of data on GIDs and IDFAs. So essentially, when you plug them into the mediation platform, they get the geolocation in the bid request and the GID and IDFA, right? And then it's up to these networks to use their own data and some other data they get from the mediation platform to essentially make an educated guess within 300 milliseconds on how much they're willing to pay to show this user an impression, right? So they look at things like, is this the first time I'm seeing this user in this app today? What's been my historic CTR in the last 7 days? Have I lost a lot of bids in this app before? What's the geolocation? And then also kind of how many impressions have previously been shown to that user in the day. So ad networks all work on something called a recency model, which means that they assume you have more attention for the first impression rather than subsequent ones, right? So kind of makes sense. Early in the day, first impression, you have more attention, so it's worth more, right? And then they supplement all this data with also their own data. For example, do I know that this user has watched a lot of ads in another game that I know, or that I actually seen this user make a purchase in another game, right? So think about it. eCPM is actually a real-time insight into how valuable a user is. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now, right? So just before we get into it, I know there's a lot of app developers in this audience, right? So I just wanted to say, like, this is kind of what you can expect. So I just made a dummy estimate based on an app of 100,000 DAU with 50,000 DAU in the States, split equally. This never happens, right? So with today's eCPMs, assuming that you have 50-50 revenue split with ads and IAPs or subscriptions, that means if you show 3 rewarded impressions on 40% of your user base, you'd earn about 3.2K a day in today's climate. And if you show 3 interstitials on 70% of your user base, that means you're earning about 2.9K a day. So remembering back to the eCPM figure, this fluctuates depending on what kind of app you have, right? So the name of the game here is if you have a lot of users, ad revenue is really worth it. If you don't, it's not, because as soon as you implement ads, you're going to see your retention crater, and specifically on interstitials, right? So what I want to talk about and why I think ads are beautiful, I want to go into a case study that I had with a client. This is a brain training app, right? So it kind of sits in the intersection between, I guess, games and applications. But the interesting thing is here, there's a lot of mini games, right? So what this client and we did was essentially we put in interstitials between the training program mini games, right? So that means we were showing anywhere between 7 to 8 impressions per day for the user base. And I was kind of pushing the client to do this just to do.
We lost your mic. You back, Felix? Some technical problems that we will work out. Felix, you back? I don't know what happened to your mic, bro. I know your audio just completely shut off out of nowhere. All right, what's happening, Brian? Good to see you. And then we got Pedro here as well. I can't hear you. Private jet. All right. Mike got disconnected. Okay. He'll be back. H, what happened to the slides? Okay.
Let's see if that works.
There you go.
Oh, sorry about that. I got excited.
Dude, it just cut out of nowhere. It's crazy.
Let me get back to it. Okay, so I was just on a roll here. Right. So let me go back to the slide we were. All right. So this brain training app, right? Yeah. So instead of basically implementing ads to actually earn revenue, I was making the argument like, hey, let's implement ads between these mini games, because essentially what happens is that when you implement ads, you can actually track the eCPM on a user level, right? So we launched the ads, not expecting to earn a lot of revenue per se, but kind of knowing the fact that these networks, right? The reason AppLovin is a $200 billion company, the reason Google is so big, right? They're extremely good at predicting how valuable users are, right? So inside of the callback in mediation platforms, every time you show an impression, you can actually see the revenue that's generated on impressions, and you times that by 1,000, and that means you actually get to your eCPM. So what we actually did was we started running ads, and then essentially we built a big model of the IDFAs or GIDs and their historic eCPM averages, right? And essentially when you've run this for long enough, you kind of can say like, oh, the last 7 impressions on this user is in the top 95th percentile. So the eCPMs are really high, meaning that this user is super valuable. So what do you do then, right? You essentially start building multiple segments based on this ad data to essentially change the experience for that user. So for example, if you're in the top 95th percentile of seeing the highest eCPMs, meaning you have a high propensity to spend, we remove the ads and only show offers, for example. And then essentially we work that all the way down. So basically, if you're in the bottom half of eCPM, that means that the likelihood of you ever converting to a subscriber is very low. So we increase the amount of ads we're actually showing to these users. So we're actually using this to essentially segment our users and finding out more data than you can just from the simple analytics platform. So it's kind of the return of the Jedi, if you think about it, because what we're doing is the big evil networks that have been bleeding us dry for years, we're using basically their algorithms to find out more about our users. So basically we can maximize subscription revenue or IAP revenue while also maximizing ad revenue. And that's kind of one thing that's only been around for the last year that's been able to do this. And that's why I think ads are beautiful, because you can kind of use it to get really good data on your user base really quickly. The downside is, of course, that you need to have placements for the ads, but there's actually a trick, right? So if you start building a really big database on this, what you can also do is you can look at the eCPM of a cached ad. So once we ran this for a month, right, what we start doing is just as soon as we get a new user, we cache an ad. So basically we run the whole auction, cache it, and we don't show it yet, right? Still get the eCPM data. So then you have one data point that essentially you can see, oh, this is in the bottom 5th percentile. Let's show them a lot of ads. Oh, this is in the top 95th percentile. So before even showing an ad, once you have enough data, you can be like, hey, let me remove the ads for this user or not.
That is brilliant.
And yeah, it's yeah, this bananas. Like, and the fact is that they used to hide these the bid request returns, like, and it's only now they kind of have opened them up. But it's just one kind of trick around this, that you need to show at least 30% of impressions that you cache. Otherwise, you usually get kicked off of these mediation platforms because they don't enjoy the fact that you request a lot of stuff, which
And never
costs them
show it.
server money. Yeah, exactly. And then you don't show the impressions where they earn the money, right? So that's the only caveat. And I guess that can kick off our discussion why ads are beautiful.
I love that, Felix. Hey, let me ask you this. All that segmentation work that you're doing, is that all internal tools that you're using?
Yeah, so far, right? It's quite simple when you start with it, really. So I've done it 4 times with 4 different clients, right? And it's kind of, sometimes you're segmenting for different things. So if it's a gaming client, right, 70% IAPs, then essentially what you're doing is you're trying to get 5 rewarded impressions early in the first time user experience. And then essentially you remove the ads for the most expensive ones and only show them offers. In the brain training app, it's all about basically getting that data early enough to see if you want to actually spam them with ads. But it's just depending on kind of the app you have, you can do different things. The crux is you just need to build up the database, because from the presentation, like I talked about, eCPM is different in every app, right? Because you don't know what your user base will be worth. So there's no kind of general guidelines. So in one client we did this with, the top percentile was $160, but in the other app is 40, right? So it can be huge fluctuations in this, right? So you need to do your own testing.
I like it. What categories tend to have the highest eCPMs?
Social casino,
Yeah.
duh.
No.
Hardcore games, and depends, right? Like usually the hardcore games, right? So yeah, hardcore games. In terms of apps, it's usually like the rule of thumb is if you have little supply, so you don't show that many ads to your users, and that you have a high degree of like in-app purchases or subscriptions that's very high, that means your like user base is going to be more valuable, right? So let's say in America for rewarded video, an average eCPM on a normal game or app might be $35 for rewarded video, but a competitive app or game that's really restricting its supply, that eCPM number might be 87 to 110 bucks, right? So really high.
I gotta write some notes down for you. The the other thing I wanted to talk about here was, does it matter the placement of the ads? Like going back to your brain training example, like where you were placing them in between the games, like as you were about to start it, does that affect anything?
Yeah, so interstitials is like, it's one of the best ad units in terms of how high ad viewer rate, because you force it on people, right? The only downside is that it absolutely destroys retention when you start doing it, right? So you need to be a bit careful with how you do it, because essentially networks end cards are really aggressive. So sometimes if you don't talk to networks about this, it might take you 8 clicks to click out an interstitial, for example, and you need to be on top of that, right? But if you usually time interstitials where it's like between an action, so let's say you have a mini game where essentially it takes 30 seconds to complete that action and it's a natural break, sometimes people mind, sometimes they don't, right? Which is why I usually recommend to start with rewarded video. And I guess if you look in like Flight Radar, you can see good examples of this, because essentially what they do sometimes is they show rewarded video where you can unlock some premium features, or at least they used to.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's like if you can build up a database, what we found of at least 6 to 7 impressions, that's usually when you can have a really good idea of how valuable that user is, because sometimes you do get false positives, right? So that's the only word of warning when you're segmenting based on eCPM.
You know, speaking of, there was one app that I saw that I want to show you and get your thoughts on, is Routinery. And I was kind of going through their app flow, and I saw this. I don't know if you were referring to this.
There
Felix,
we go.
was it? Yeah.
Exactly like this. Yeah. Oh, you're reading my mind. Yeah, exactly like this, right? So
I'm following your lead, bro. I'm not even reading
there
your
we go.
mind. I'm just listening.
Exactly. So basically here they're giving some sort of like a premium taste, a tasty poo of what the premium features actually are, right? So this is exactly what I'm talking about. So if you can able to stack a couple of these impressions on top of each other and build out a database, then essentially you'd be able to decide if this user would ever want to convert or not, or if you just basically make your whole experience free with ads.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit because I
Yeah,
love this strategy too, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I was like, hey, I have an example. I remember this app that I was looking at. So, do you
perfect.
like this strategy? And then, how do you know if this user is going to pay or not pay? Like, is it just from that data that you kind of pulled together?
Yeah, so remember going back, right? So what these networks do, right? You run UA campaigns. There's mainly three type of UA campaigns that you run in our industry, right? It's IAP campaign, which is basically you're looking after users that will spend or buy in your games. Same thing as subscription campaigns, right?
Right, right.
And then you have blended, which blends ad revenue and IAP. And then you have ad ROAS campaigns, which optimize for users that only like to watch a lot of ads, right?
Okay.
Which campaigns cost more usually, right? It's the IAP ones, right? Because they
Mhm.
bring the highest LTV type of users. So usually what you see when you start tracking the eCPM is that suddenly you start seeing a user that consistently has bids over eCPM levels over $100, for example, which means that this user probably in other apps has spent a lot, meaning that networks like AppLovin or something like that, they're very confident that if they show this user an ad and if they convert, they'll actually start and buy something wherever you're sending them to, right?
I see.
So the false positives you can get is usually related to the blended or ad ROAS campaigns because they're essentially optimizing on impressions, right? So users that watch a lot of ads. So that's why you need to track about 7 impressions, right? Because the false positive you can get is that when you show users that are high in ad ROAS UA type of campaigns, usually they have really high ECPMs on the first 3 impressions, but then it dropped off really heavily after that, right?
I
So
see.
basically, that's the kind of false positives you can get. So it's just about thinking from first principles, like what's actually happening in the mobile industry, right? You're buying users, and then essentially you can see it on the AdMob side. So let's just use that data for our like benefit, right?
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna pull up your slide, so I'm gonna do it this way. So because this way I can kind of have my little laser pointer. So Felix, here's user. Let's just call it 2 because it's the
Yeah,
second
so
row. The
probably the first
impressions.
one, right? Yeah,
Okay,
so like right here, I don't know if we can zoom in a little bit, but basically, if you see on
try.
the first row, right, this is one of the users that we actually flagged, right? So
Oops.
the first user, you can see that the ECPM's historic levels. Oh,
Let me try. I'll try to zoom in.
okay, we'll
There you
try
go.
it. Okay, so you see the first one. So the first impression that we showed to this user on the rewarded video, if you go to the
Yeah.
top one,
Mm-hmm.
$46. Second impression, $52. Third impression, 63. Fourth impression, 41. And then basically you can see it stays high consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially what you start doing is you start making a mean and a median, and you kind of just know where the middle point is for this, right? So for this particular example, this was in, I think, the top percentile or something like that. It was extremely high, right?
Right.
So then what you do is for that user, if you go back to the IDFA,
Yep.
and for that user, essentially, you just cut the rewarded ads and basically start showing them offers, for example.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
I love it. Whereas maybe this person who started off as 8, you're
yeah,
probably gonna have
exactly.
to keep showing them ads.
Exactly, right?
Got
And
it.
then basically you don't even show them the offer, right? But then exactly the
Got it.
example that you had before, if you go back
The
and
retainer
show
layout.
your example, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly here. So here you might just remove the free trial stuff even and just show more ad placements to unlock the full
Mm,
feature set, right? So the trick with this is it works great, but if you have a really strong social following, which I've worked on a couple of games that do, people figure this out pretty quickly, right? And then they get angry. Yeah.
what? Yo, the
Well,
users end up getting angry for what?
of course, like you have these forums, right? If you're like working on a popular game and a user is getting like stuff for free and another one in another part of the world is not,
Oh
that's
my
something that people
god.
get angry about, you know?
Oh my god. I love it. Only if I could get that big, Felix.
I'm
Oh, I
talking
love
like
it.
supercell scale, right? But yeah.
All right. Well, Nurex has this question. He's asked a couple of times. AdMob or Unity ads? Which one gives more revenue?
That's a very good question, and I'll expand on that answer, right? So there's 3 main mediation platforms right now, and it's AppLovin Max, Unity Level Play, and AdMob, Google AdMob, right? And they're all good at different things, right? How it looks like right now is that Google AdMob is like the king of banner revenue. So if you have really good, like a lot of banner revenue, you need to be on AdMob because that's where you get the highest ECPMs and the highest ad revenue. Uh, Max has kind of beat out level play significantly in the market in the last couple of years. So probably about 70% of the world's impressions are now mediated on Max, and they're the kings of video inventory, right? So they have the highest eCPMs on video inventory. But what Unity level play does really well is actually giving you a good way to visualize data. And that's what they're really good at, right? But in terms of eCPMs, Max is the undisputed champion right now, right?
Well, okay, there it is. And this is why he is the man himself. 2.5. Hi from Jamaica.
Sweet.
Eric, got to get shout out to all the Bay Area folks. Good to see you, Eric. All right, Jeff says, and I asked this already, Felix, but is there third-party tech that you can use, or you gonna have to do it internally?
This right now is only being built internally, right? But like, it's so valuable that I'm wondering if like the mediation platforms are going to do something to fight it. We'll see. But essentially right now, every time I've done it, it's been built internally. I've spoke to a couple of vendors that want to start building this out. We'll see. It's a nice feature.
Yeah, I like it. Joe says, our mutual friend Joe, finance a crypto app, eCPMs are insane.
Yeah.
Eric says, can you choose higher bids on eCPMs? Is that right? On AdMob?
I guess we're getting into like ad unit segmentation here, right? Which is also one of the other topics which is super hot right now, which is essentially that you use bid floors. So what's kind of happened in the industry, right, is that we moved away from something called price floors, where basically you put in networks at set values, which usually meant that you as a publisher had a lot of power in the price setting. This was thrown out, and now we work in something called header bidding, where basically programmatically ads come up with the highest price, right? So what this essentially means is that us publishers don't have as much price setting power as we used to, right? So what this meant is that in the last probably 2 years, eCPMs have gone down while CPIs have gone up, right? So if you think about that, what's actually happened in the marketplace? Conspiracy time. Anyway, so not talking about that, but one of the things you can do is also segmenting on bid floors, right? So you can send certain users to certain ad units where you have a bid floor, say, of $12 or $50. And then you can kind of fight this degradation in the overall eCPM level.
I see. All right, we've got a lot of great questions for you. Joe says, with Google now estimating users' ages, will this play a role in affecting eCPMs?
Very little, very little. Okay. Like the main thing, right, like that determines eCPM, right, is essentially how much competition you have, right? So if you basically sell all your inventory to one network, let's say, then you earn $100 in ad revenue. If you actually put that in a mediation platform and have multiple networks bidding into it, that's going to double at least, right? So you need to have a lot of competition. But like most of these things that I'm talking about, right, like if you're earning 3K a day in ad revenue, most of these things I'm talking about is not worth it, because basically it's a lot of time to build out some of these features, right? And sometimes, you know, the increase you're getting is somewhere between 10 to 15%, right? Which is a lot at 3K, but if you're earning 100K a day, then it's very much necessary, right? So that's something in ad monetization you also need to keep in mind, right?
And Bill loves the eCPM segmentation. Very interesting. He's building an app right now. It's in the comments as well.
Cool.
Nurex, hyper casual games earning more revenue, right, Felix?
Hyper casual is actually dead. It died a couple of years ago. So what happened was that when we moved to essentially this bid only, right, where header bidding and the eCPMs dropped, we're earning 20% less revenue, and then it's harder to track users, especially on iOS. So hyper casual business model has pretty much been dying. So there's less and less studios that, you know, come out with 15 games in a month, scale them up for 2 weeks. And basically all the big hyper casual studios have transitioned to hybrid, which is 50-50. So IAPs versus ad revenue, right? So yeah, hyper casual's dead.
How's Voodoo doing?
Voodoo's transitioned like most of their games to a hybrid model where they're earning 50-50, right? They're earning multiple millions of dollars now from IAPs, still probably earning about $1 million a day in ad revenue. They're probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
But their IAP revenue, it's much more preferred as a studio because eCPM is also subject to market forces, right? So the closer you are to Black Friday, the higher the eCPMs will be, right? Which means that they're crash also in January. So yeah, it's a bit of a dichotomy, and it's really hard to predict, right? So user or like C levels, they tend to prefer having a predictable model on how much they can actually earn, which IAP and subscriptions are so much easier to predict.
Would you recommend third-party optimizers like Yoda One for indie devs?
No.
I have no idea
So
what this is. I
no,
have no
so
idea
like
what's going on, by the way.
the thing is, like, there's three main mediation platforms, right? And what they like right now, when we move to bidding, all the heavy lifting that used to be associated with ad revenue has pretty much gone away. Third-party platforms were amazing back in the day, I would say, because they did everything for you, right? But there's not that much to do anymore. Like, basically, the admon person's job has kind of transitioned to more of a design job than managing an ad stack. So, whatever they charge sometimes is 12 or 7% of your ad revenue. It's just very expensive for something that you can get for free with very minimal like effort. Like, let's say if you have an app and you're earning 3K a day, right? Like, you can set that up on Max or AdMob or Level Play, relatively simple, have 6 networks bidding in, and you don't need to look at it more than maybe once every 6 months, right? So only if you start scaling that, it starts being worth it to actually having a person. But basically charging a percentage fee, I never really agreed with. So yeah, it's a bit too simple now, I would say, to actually use these vendors.
I like it. Hey, Felix, because I primarily work on non-games, beyond this type of like model where you have a rewarded video, rewarded ad for unlocking like premium features, have you seen other like non-games, like creative strategies to using ads?
Yeah, I mean, like it depends, right? Like there's a bunch of cool stuff. Like I don't know if you know the brain training app Impulse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like one of the things that they do extremely well is like they show interstitials quite early on, right? What they also start doing is pop-ups afterwards, because essentially they show a pop-up after each interstitial. First one is usually like a heartfelt message that goes like, "Hey, we're sorry. Here's a picture of our CEO. We need to use ads to keep this experience free. We're sorry." Next pop-up is like a pop-up that comes after the interstitial that goes like, "Hey, do you know you can actually remove these ads by becoming a paying subscriber?" Third interstitial, they have like, "Hey, sorry, here's a full screen interstitial after the interstitial to get you to basically subscribe." And yeah, I think it really increased like kind of conversions. So ads are annoying, right? But there's a lot of creative stuff you can kind of do to basically get around this, which is really cool.
I'm downloading the app right now because I want the
Yeah,
visuals.
I think I actually have an example
Okay.
somewhere.
I love a man who can pull up visuals, or a woman, okay,
Yeah.
who just on. While we're talking about it, let me pull up this visual for you.
Yeah, if we go back to our presentation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I just added it into my presentation, so maybe if I just
Okay, let me
remove it
this.
from the stage and add it again.
Let's try. Let me add this. There you go.
Wait, so let me see if I let me update it.
Okay.
Okay.
You do that. I'll let you do that, and then I do want to get into some of your Substack stuff.
Yeah. Of course, it's not working. Is there any way I can share, present?
Yeah, I think you can. You hit the present or invite, and then you can share your screen if you want.
Share screen. Perfect.
Just be careful.
Yeah, of course. It's over here, right? Can you see that?
Yes, sir. I'll pull it up.
So here's the examples from Impulse, right? So they have these mini games, right? And I think this is so clever because basically they show 5 of their own messaging after the interstitial ads to get people to convert. So the first one, as you can see, ads are skippable after 15 seconds. These are the buttons from the different networks that you should look out for to actually skip the ads.
Okay.
And then essentially they have, play without.
And then they show the ad.
Yeah, no, that's after. This is after the ad.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
and then essentially the next one is, do you want to like after the second interstitial is, hey, play without like ads by becoming a premium user. Then they kind of show you a pop-up on you can remove ads at any time up here. Then the fourth interstitial that they show is pretty much, hey, start your free trial. And then the final one, which is the Hail Mary one, is pretty much they go, hey, you can remove ads only on this game with an IAP so you don't need to subscribe. So very clever stuff.
Got it. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. Beautiful. All right. Let's get into the last. We got some more questions. All right. Well, let's see. What do you want to do? I'd like to talk about some of your Substack stuff. You want to go after questions, or you want to go on your Substack stuff?
We can do one or two more questions, then we
All
can
right.
talk a little bit about Substack. But yeah.
Better to show interstitial ads between levels from day one or introduce them gradually? Which approach balances monetization, retention, and prevents rage uninstalls? From George, as I'll call him.
Oh, what a loaded question, because essentially depends completely on the type of game or app that you're building, right? Because, I have worked on games where essentially the first thing you do is show them interstitial before they even play, right? And sometimes it works if you have a compelling kind of user flow, right? So if you kind of think about it around core loops, if your core loop is short, then you can probably show ads earlier and easier, right? After the first time user experience. Usually I recommend to after the first time user experience, so like 5 or 10 minutes into kind of the use. But basically you just need to keep a tight look on that, because increasing interstitial ads destroys retention. But if your like app is super slow to use, then if you show 2 interstitials really quickly, you'll get a lot of rage people quitting. Also depends on how much time you use. It's case by case here. Like there's no golden rule, right? But
Makes sense.
yeah, interstitials are pretty bad. Try to get rewarded instead. They're much easier on the retention.
What placements are low impact in terms of the user experience and have a good eCPM? I mean, similar questions because
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very similar. But essentially, good eCPM depends on your ad setup and how valuable your user base is. If you have only users in Indonesia, it's not going to be valuable as users in America, and depends how many networks you also have set up, right? So eCPM is like it's kind of in your hands, but not really, because the only thing you can kind of do to improve it is just networks, right, and clever segmentation. In terms of good placements, it's just placements don't interrupt users in the flow, right? So don't do it before an action or something like that. And then for interstitials, and then rewarded is the best because it's opt-in, right?
Yeah. I love the rewarded ones too. I noticed Felix for the longest time. I was like, the New York Times games, right? I was like, dude, why are they not doing ads? And then finally I see ads.
Oh, it's been a tirade of mine for so long because they have so many users. And then
I know.
oh, then you have like
My wife
Stephen
is like,
Carvata's like dream story, how he basically made Wordle, and it's
yeah,
just like, yeah, it's yeah.
yes, I know. Like everything. How lucky can a guy be? Like honestly, but my wife was like, dude, why did they start putting ads? I was like, and I told her, I was like, why haven't they done it for the longest time? Like, I don't mind
Yeah.
it. Yeah. All right.
Like I've
It,
worked with a couple of these clients, right, that are
yeah.
very old school in thinking. And it's just like you mentioned ads, and it's just like, oh no, we're not even going to try it. They're bad. And you're like, well, you're monetizing 2% of your app right now, and you have 4 million daily active. Uh, what,
Makes no
what,
sense.
what? Like,
Yeah.
okay, great, but let's try it. And they're like, no.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, one person loves it because I'm in the app space. So I'm like, okay, good, finally. And it's not even that disruptive. I'm just like, this is such a simple app. I've seen worse. H has any data in showing ads on Paywall? Like,
Ooh, in gaming and rewarded apps, we do this all the time by putting basically a big native ad, because essentially it's like you get a lot of eyeballs on it. So in gaming, this is quite common. In
okay.
rewarded ads, this happens all the time, right? Because you get a lot of footfall. So yeah, MREC or native ads, which is like a large banner ad, I see them on paywalls in gaming or something like that all the time.
Hmm. I like it. Great question, H. All right. Bill says, because he's asked this twice, how to handle ask not to track.
There's nothing you can really do. The only thing you can do is right now in Europe, you need something called a CMP when you have ads, which is super annoying, which is basically consent management platform. And Google currently is the only network that basically needs you to have this. So if you don't have this in the consent string in the ad request, that means that they don't show you any targeted ads. So basically not like targeted ads is ads without data, which means it's half as valuable, right? So what you can do if you have a CMP is you can have a bit more control with this app asked to track. So there's a couple of good vendors in the space that are doing this. Usually opt-in rates when you work with them is about 94%. The Google standard one that's for free is usually opt-in rates of 84 to 85%. So that's the only thing you can do around it. But Apple's quite strict on that one. Surprise.
Bill says, thanks. And if you want to thank Felix, go check out his Substack. And I'm going to pull up one of my favorite article is one of the most popular articles called 6 Ad Placements That Deliver in 2025 so far. Felix, went through this. Is there one that you love? Because I've got one that I love too, and then we'll force everybody else to read the rest of the 6.
Yeah, let's go down, and it's the
Yep.
play simple one, and it's so clever.
The
Go
play
down a bit
simple one.
more. Yeah, here we
This
go. The
one.
GIF. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, this is the one I wanted to. Okay, this is my
Yeah,
favorite too.
like
Okay, good.
like I spoke to these guys, and I'm just like, when I played the game, so like gaming, I guess is a bit different for because it's so detail oriented on small things that make a big difference. So traditionally, right, in games or apps, right, you have a store where you go to purchase
Mhm.
things, right? So usually in the store you have the rewarded ad placement, right? And usually go in, you have to find it. But what these guys did was they moved it to a pop-up when you leave the store without making a purchase. And I don't know what the conversion rate on this was, but they said it improved it a lot. And you know, if a gaming studio says that, then it means it's absolutely fire. And yeah, you can see it here. But just small things like that, when you move things, like it has a massive impact, even though it looks super small. Yeah, I
I
think
love
it's
this one.
super clever. Yeah,
Hey,
so clever.
we're aligned. It's like we're brothers already. You know what? I'm so brother.
Mm.
All right, check out the rest of the article and Felix's Substack. We'll link that up too. But maybe end cards, Felix, because I thought that was an interesting thing as well.
Yeah. So I guess people love stories, right? So it was a cold October day in 2021 in the offices of, I think it was Iron Source in Tel Aviv. So it probably wasn't cold or rainy, but nonetheless, it was in October, right? So what happened then was that Iron Source changed something on their entire ad network so that every rewarded video and interstitial ad that they showed essentially had an end card, which is essentially something that pops up at the bottom.
Just
Then you
like
need
this.
to click out on one thing to basically get the X button, and then you get to leave. And if you press anywhere else, then essentially you're redirected to the store to download the app.
Right.
I don't know what the impact on this was, but essentially 14 days after, AppLovin on their whole network rolled out something similar. And then the race to basically the arms race for end cards basically started, and all networks had to follow, right? So when I started working in ads, a good click through rate on a rewarded ad was 1.1%. The CTR now on rewarded ads on AppLovin sometimes is like 75%, right?
Jeez.
So what happened then? You know, it's not that users are clicking and downloading more apps, it's these end cards, right? And what not a lot of people know is like when you plug in to this murky industry that I talked about earlier, right? Is you usually get stuck with the worst end cards, right? So, for example, some networks rewarded videos can be up to 90 seconds on these settings, which requires 6 clicks to click out of and 10 seconds of waiting. That used to be 30 seconds. So if you don't speak to networks about this and say, hey, we actually have rules, then essentially you're stuck on the most aggressive thing, which means retention drops, right? So when you start working with ads, you need to reach out to each of your ad networks and speak to a human being, because they don't want you to change this, because then you're kind of screwing with their margins, right? So the longer the end cards, the more margins for the networks, worse for you as a publisher. So when you're starting working with the ads, the first thing you need to do is like, hey, I want to be put on the lowest aggressiveness in terms of end cards. And if you want to change it to get a higher ECPM, you need to run tests to do that. But usually when you're starting with ads, just start on the lowest one, because you don't want to have 90-second rewarded videos.
Yeah. And Felix has a script that you can follow as well if you want to talk to these ad networks.
The secret word is parity. Parity.
I love it. All right, there's a few more and I will get to your questions, but let's get into some Nurix wants it. So let's get into some app audits, and let's start off every app audit with some dad jokes. All right, Felix, you said you got 3. I got 3 as well. Guys, we need you to vote, so get ready to press S or F. And it's that simple. Felix, as a guest, you want to go first or do you want to go second?
Why don't oysters donate to charity?
Why, Felix?
Because they're shellfish.
I like it. Okay. Felix, here's a lame one. How do you turn soup into gold? Add 24 carrots. There you go. All right, put S if you thought my joke was better, and put F if Felix's joke was better, and we'll play for a drink at the next MAU. How about that? H, you can't vote, okay? H, you got to get out of here. You can't vote. And by voting, you will get entered into winning a free Indie App Santa promo on us. Thanks to our sponsors, Web2Wave, the easiest way to build Web2 app funnels, and arcads.ai. If you're looking for AI UGCs to start testing different hooks, different concepts, and you don't want to use real UGCs because they're too expensive, well, check out Arcads. They make it really simple. They've got a new feature that lets you be expressive, like have these type of things. It's pretty cool. Arcads.ai as well. Okay, Felix, let's get into this app. Let me make sure I have the order right. Yeah, it's a party game app that wants help to successfully scale on the App Store. Okay, well, that's a loaded question. All right. I like to know if everything looks good for the app to successfully scale on the App Store. So I guess we could just go straight into the app, Felix, or do you want to talk about the App Store presence at all?
Dude, this is so out of my wheelhouse. You need to talk here and educate me because, I do ads. I'm an ad man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love your
Like
perspective.
I said,
We picked some games just to get your perspective on how they can sort of monetize too. But yeah, let's take a look at the app.
yeah.
Let me move some things. All right. And then we'll bring it up. We're getting lots of votes. I love it. Mellow.
Interest rate calculator.
Oh shoot.
Are you
I was doing
are you running away to Switzerland? What's going on?
I was trying to find keywords that I could be bidding on for a client of ours. I wanted to see, man, okay. We're both having technical problems. It was working and then just stalled. Let me try something real quick. All right.
Probably all those Swiss francs you're trying to calculate.
All right. We'll brought it back up.
All right. Let's take a look.
Terms of use is the first one. That's the first screen, Felix.
Perfect.
All right, I'm gonna hit allow.
Allow.
We'll do party. Or dirty it. All right. Epic. What do you think?
Boys night? Boys night? Let's do boys night.
It's VIP, so I might hit. Okay. I'll put
Felix
first and then Felix. All right.
Paywall.
Paywall.
All right.
Let's just see what happens when I hit start. I like the call to action. Okay.
Payment failed.
Oh, I can't play.
Oh yeah. Add me.
So every time I try to add you, I'm locked out. So let's try pre-game.
Oh, pre-game.
Rock, paper, scissors. Everyone plays against the person on the left. Okay. That's cool.
Right.
Everyone who has never been abroad. Time to change that. Okay. Steve, your task is to start clapping at a random moment during the party. Whoever is the last to follow. I like that. It's like King's Cups. Have you ever played King's Cup?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's very similar to this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't see any downside. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I think you could start to scale.
Yeah, I mean, what sticks out to me here is like where are the social features, right? Where the sharing, like if you have a funny question, you want to share it, or
that's true. Great point.
Things like that, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah. Is it kind of for like good times? I guess you have to vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
somebody wants me
let's not do that dirty one, Steve. It's too early in the morning for you for that.
I just wanted to see what was over there. Okay.
Well.
Date for you two. Steve, what are you most favored of? I would try to either work in ads or I want to see or figure out a way to monetize. Like I'm just
Yeah, I'm kind of clicking through, right? And kind of it feels like there needs to be a bit of an onboarding, right? The first time user experience is kind of discoveratory instead of actually leading you to something. I think even just like a 3 page explanation what you can actually do and how it's supposed to be enjoyed, and even just adding maybe pictures of people having fun.
I think what he can also do is if I hit X right here, start thinking through like adding a rewarded video, be like, hey, why don't you, if you want to, because sometimes it's like you get the first 10 questions on us, right? Something
Yeah.
that kind of unlocks some of these because I want to know if it's interesting or not. And if it is, then, maybe I'm happy to pay
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
What's your kind of thinking here on the paywall, right? Because that's something I don't know very much about, but I know all you app people talk about this, right? A hard paywall or a soft paywall. What's the kind of
Yeah.
thinking behind here? And is this best practices?
I would stick with the weekly. I think with party games, the weekly tends to do pretty well with a 3-day trial. So I would stick with this. I might even put, if there's no cost to you, Makish, sorry, I can't, I'm going to butcher your name, but there's no cost to you. Like think about a lifetime offer. We work with one of these party game apps that's done pretty well. And they usually just do a lifetime offer for like $20. And so I think weekly and lifetime tend to be most interesting. Hard paywall. I think with an app like this, you kind of, I like hard paywalls for more like utility based apps and more like niche apps that solve like a real problem. For a party game, I think you're just going to get creamed from the reviewers because that's the downside to a hard paywall. It does increase retention, like it usually increases your conversions and usually you make more money. One of our apps was a niche like sleep sounds app, and a hard paywall was like double the revenues. It was 10,000 a month versus like $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So
I don't know what the DAU is, right? But like also, if you want to push people to making a subscription or a conversion, right? You can throw in banner ads. It's not going to earn that much revenue, right? Because the ECPMs are quite low. But just removing them, and you can have something like an X on it at all time, which is basically a button that you can click on to always get to remove the ads, which is basically converting to premium, right? Banner ads will never make you rich because the ECPM has gotten so low, especially in the last year. I don't know what the DAU is here. Maybe if the person is on, they can share the DAU. But yeah, just using ads to kind of showcase what you can do. But for me here, what's kind of missing, I guess, is an onboarding because I'm a bit confused. At least when I was using the app before earlier today.
I think there was a bit of it, but yeah, it wasn't like a super big one. And it looks like I can only do one person at a time. Otherwise, I have to pay. I think.
Yeah, I could get 2 before for free. So yeah.
Yeah. Felix, have you ever had paranormal experience?
I'm having one right now.
Good one. I like it. There you go, my friend. All right. H, you come on in. Let's pick our winner. He's got a party in the background.
Oh, sorry.
Festival.
Okay. Festival. All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's add some music. Hopefully it doesn't get in trouble with YouTube. Let me remove
So, Steve, the score is 7-8, and Felix is the winner.
What?
Paranormal experience.
By 1 vote. That's awesome. All right.
I love democracy.
All right, H, who wins the free Indie App Santa promo? Let's get a new winner. Go ahead, spin that wheel, baby.
And the winner
Eric.
is Eric.
Let me see who he voted for. Let me find Eric.
If he didn't vote for you, you won't give it to him?
Yeah, no. Screw you, Eric. All right, Eric. Just email me, steve@appmasters.co or .com. Doesn't really matter. And you get a free Indie App Santa promo, even though you're a traitor. All right. All right, Felix. Let me ask some more questions for you. Okay, here's one from George. Is it effective to place a rewarded ad on the interstitial paywall with a watch ad for discount call to action, then show a second wall with the discounted price? It's an interesting idea.
Whoa. I never thought about that. But you got to remember, right? Like the ECPM on rewarded ads, right? In the States, you're lucky if you're getting a cent to 3 cents per impression, right? Which means internationally, like you're not getting paid very much. So if you're discounting a lot for a rewarded ad, might not be worth it, right? But basically, probably what I like more is, hey, if you have a feature set, maybe you can try a like I'm working with a flight tracking one right now. We're going to track 1 plane per day with basically a rewarded ad, right? Or for 2 minutes or something like that, right? So usually it's like just better to give something of value. Or on the paywall, you could put a native ad, but it's like you're not going to earn that much money from it, right? So it's only worth it if you have a lot of users, really. But never thought about that. Might be you're giving away too much value. That's my gut feeling, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's my gut feeling too. I'd rather do a rewarded ad for unlocking a feature so you can start to show value, George, and then hopefully get them to convert. Because then you unlock it, they see the value, and then you hit them with the discounted price the next day or the following after they've done something. So like after you track that flight, Felix, hey, maybe that's when you show the discount. So it's the same concept, George, but then you're watching a reward ad for value versus a discount, which I'm like kind of like, oh, I really want that. All right. Brian says, is there any psychological practice to build the same app for both iOS versus, what? Is there any psychological practice to build the same app for iOS versus Android? You get what the question is?
Yeah, I guess in
Yeah.
gaming, because I think Chai or Brian is from Vietnam, which is,
Yeah.
where all the heroes are from right now, right? It's the hottest thing since Istanbul, in terms of app
Yes.
development.
Yes.
I've actually started to notice this, right? And one of the best examples of this is Voodoo's new game title called Epic Plane Evolution. So on iOS, they actually have an IAP economy, which actually users can use to convert. And if you actually use it on Android, they just get rid of this feature completely and just put it behind rewarded ads because essentially Android people don't convert as much for IAPs. So I guess that's kind of the psychological there or the background there. But if you play that game on both for like 30 minutes, you'll see it straight away. But basically, there's a whole other economic feature on iOS that doesn't exist on Android at all.
It's interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
And then press the actually add them. Okay. I don't know what these other questions are. Cool.
Well, let's see.
I don't know. If I missed a question, let me know. This LinkedIn user says sometimes even an ad network manager won't help you because the product team says, oh no, we've got our rules. So as an app developer, you need to make like kind of an argument with the ad network and show that you are serious. I guess you're talking about the end cards a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, I guess like I have this joke or kind of rule, right? You're supposed to treat ad networks exactly the same as you do mushrooms, right? You feed them shit and you keep them in the dark. So basically, if you have problems with ad networks, right, you just need to be quite harsh, right? So, if they're not replying, then you need to turn them off and basically be like, hey, we're going to switch you off unless you adhere to our standards. This is unacceptable. And basically what I say in the in the blog post is also that one word they love to hear is parity, because basically that means that all networks have the same ad settings. So you can't have a different one because that gives you an advantage. So let's say if you have 4 networks and Unity has end cards and the other networks don't, that means Unity is going to win everything, right? So networks will never do anything if they think it's going to not serve their margins, which is why that word parity is so important.
I like it. Felix with multiple jokes, just clobbering me, just rubbing it in for me. All right, let's get into Tuna's app, Taha's app. He's got Coloroid, Filmic Co-Editor. Yeah.
This one just screams like it could benefit from a rewarded ad placement. Oh.
Okay. Well, let's get into the app because that's what he needs help on. Onboarding, paywall, and increasing revenues. So let's get into the app right now, and then we'll let Felix enjoy his night. All right. Coloroid right here. Oof. The colors, I don't like it. I mean, it was so clean on the App Store. This does not look good, but okay. I'm gonna get into it. Transform your photos. All right. That's cool.
Nice.
I like that. We want you to try for free. Yep, we've seen these work pretty well, Felix, from a paywall perspective. Just kind of like saying, hey, here's a free trial. And then the normal weekly versus lifetime. Okay, this is kind of recommended. Continue for free. I always like to hit this, see if people are doing stuff. Okay, I'm gonna hit X.
So generally, here's my first question to you, Steve, right? Like if you have a paywall like that, right, that you can close, generally how many people actually go back to converting on that paywall? Or is it usually the users that see this that convert and then they start using it? Or is it they play around and then come back and pay?
Usually they don't come back and pay, especially for like single use apps, which I'm going to assume this is kind of for Taha. Like, maybe I want to just edit one video. I know we've worked with other apps where I feel like it's more single use. That's why weekly is more important for these type of apps. I think this is the type of app that you can try a hard paywall on, because it's very niche. It's what, people want this. So that is one where I wouldn't mind trying a hard paywall on this one.
What if I said like maybe you could try a hard paywall on like tier 1 in the US, right?
Yeah.
And then in other parts of the world, basically you just add some rewarded ads that you can watch. Still have the paywall, but then essentially having a soft paywall. And then if you upload a beautiful picture so we can try it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try some stupid one.
Cool.
I don't know what to do actually.
Yeah. I felt that as well. Like it was a bit confusing in the start. Maybe if it would have been a bit of a video on the onboarding on how to use the feature set.
Felix, the way I feel is like if you have to explain it to me through a video, your UI UX sucks then.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's
I'm
my
an ad guy,
perspective,
right? But here, like your film stock, right? If you have one of these, right? So if you click on one of them,
I can't. It's weird.
but if you put a rewarded
Tap the
ad on
big
one of them, so
button,
you could have a
Steve.
little tasty poo of what actually the feature would be, right? So watch a rewarded ad, then you can unlock it for one of these things. Ooh,
Oh,
nice.
okay. Now I can do some. Thank you. That was intuitive, Taha. Like it was. I didn't know looks just like an icon. I mean, you have these little things too, and I'm more tempted to press the down button versus this button.
Oh.
Okay. Maybe Felix, a video would have been nice for me to be like, press here to add more filters. I kind of like it that it's just like, I don't have to worry about which filter, I don't have to pick. Just kind of have fun, hit a button. All right. Add some tooltips, animate the button. Yeah. I had no idea that I was supposed to press this button.
Yeah. So basically you'd say hard paywall, right?
I would try
tier
it.
ones.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would try it for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And I would add more text to this paywall. Like, hey, unlock all blah, blah, blah. What are the benefits besides just starting my free trial and going pro? What did you want to talk about with the ad stuff, Felix?
I was basically saying, like, sometimes you get a lot of users, right? Like, that's one of the things for like QR apps, right? And that's one thing I don't understand sometimes. It's just like like some of them I've worked with, and you look at the conversion geos, right? And it's like all tier 1 that are actually paying, but they have a lot of users in like Vietnam or Indonesia, right? So why not even put some ads there to earn a little bit of revenue from that huge user base that's otherwise just costing you server costs, right?
Yeah.
So having a different type of experience for tier 1 and US audience compared to other parts of the world. For example, in Malaysia, Indonesia, ECPMs there for rewarded ads is sometimes like $6-7, right? And people get quite surprised hearing that, and you're like, yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. I'm gonna assume that when I'm pressing this button, it's these film stocks, but I don't know which one's which. That's the only downside too. I don't know what film stock any of these things are, Taha. So that's my feedback to you too. I don't know if I'm gonna assume that you're moving through these things while I'm pressing the button, but maybe lock it after a while too. And then he does let me lock certain things like right here, which I don't know what this really means either. This haze or I don't know. They are all random, not just limited to these film stocks. Okay. You can tap the heart to use those film stocks. All right. I don't know.
The heart. Ah.
Oh, okay. Aha, my friend. No offense, but that was not intuitive. I had no idea.
How would you change that then? Like, I'm not a designer, right? But how would you improve that?
Dude, I mean, just copy another photo app. Like, just have them, like Instagram, just have them right there. Like, what can I add? Like, literally, I wouldn't change it too much from what you've seen with other ads or with other
that
photo
app
apps.
is just exactly like gaming. Is copy someone.
Yeah. Yeah, for real, dude. For real. Like, anyways. Sorry, dude. Got ad tubes. Okay. I mean, this is just one person's opinion. I mean, I see a lot of apps though, but I don't feel like it was that intuitive, Taha. So I would probably just work on that, and that will eventually help your revenues. I like that you're locking up certain things too. So Sweet. But then if I hit the X on the paywall, give me a discount. Maybe that's the best time to show a discount too. And then let me watch an ad. Like, hey, I don't want to do that, but I want to do that. Let me watch an ad. Maybe you get some revenues out of me instead of me just searching for the next app to do this on.
Yeah, maybe take that the rewarded that you saw how the rewarded pop up from my blog, right?
Yeah.
Where basically it was like when you leave the pay page, maybe
Yes.
you show a discount. That's actually quite clever.
Yes.
So
like-
do that.
Like this.
Like
is
this.
so
If you actually leave the paywall and then here's a discount instead of a rewarded ad, obviously.
Yeah, we've seen that work pretty well too.
Nice.
All right. So the Substack is linked up, or you can just put Felix's name, .substack.com. Great articles here. You can see all the best ones, the most popular. He's got a lot of great stuff. And Joe, check out his YouTube channel as well. It is called 2.5 Gamers. And I know you guys are familiar with this as well. Felix, thank you so much for coming on. If the audience wants to connect with you in any other way, do you want to send them anywhere else besides the ones I've just mentioned?
My email is on Substack, otherwise me@felixbraberg.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Drop me a message. If you think I was talking a lot of crap, let me know. Or if you have any questions, always happy to chat.
Well, it is a great read. Felix, thank you so much. This was awesome. I learned a ton. A lot of this stuff, I have no idea what the heck is going on. People are loving it. George is loving it as well. And Joe, thank you for recommending that we reach out to Felix as well. I don't know if he connected us, but definitely.
Yeah, he did, Joe. Yeah, absolute hero. Yeah.
Get Felix back on again. We will, my friend.
Yay.
We will. All right, Felix. Next week, we got a great episode. We got Desmond Ho, who has built his app from zero, bootstrapped his entire app called Life Reset from zero to $500,000. So $500,000 a month. And he's going to talk about all that he's done to do it. And I met him on Twitter and I thought, Desmond, you got to come on. So join us every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Let me know in the comments if you like 9 a.m. Pacific or maybe 7 a.m. Let me know. All right, Felix, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say before we say bye?
Ads are beautiful.
I love it, my friend. All right, congrats on the win. See you guys next week.